Hi everyone, welcome back to the Anand studio. Today we have a very special guest again, Sreevidya Balasubramaniam. She is a political observer and a democracy analyst. Namaskaram, ma'am, for joining us.
Namaskaram, Anand.
Thank you. So we'll jump straight in to our discussion. So it's been nearly about, I think, 1.5 years of the DMK government in Tamil Nadu. So how do you see that? How do you see their performance as of today?
The performance is just the same as it's usually with DMK or any DK parties. Corruption, commission, everything happens. Also, the administration takes care of welfare schemes and the usual governance. I think what would be signature of Stalin government will be the dilemma that he is facing, which his father didn't have to face, was the pressure from the pressure groups, ACA lobbies, and also what he considers as his vote share, and what he wants to deliver. So he wanted to model himself after Arvind Kejriwal, who got a second term. So obviously he focused quite a lot on his the schemes that could reach out to people, and there's no denial that he has administered those schemes really well, like how his predecessor EPS was. However, with the DMK, I think the corruption angle is slightly more accelerated when it compares to EPS administration, especially because EPS administration at the government level kept things more transparent and didn't play around with the bureaucracy too much to promote their own, cronies within the structure. So that is a big difference with DMK. So there is corruption at the lower level, just like how ADMK was, but more accelerated because they've been power hungry. They've been out of power for 10 years. So it's quite obvious. And that is that's their revenue model. So corruption, extortion. So all that happens. But what Stalin failed to do was to make sure that that corruption didn't reach to the administrative level, the corporate level. However, he's always insulated, like how the whole DMK scientific corruption saga is. So there's not much the public can do. So he's doing, I think, as the chief minister, he's trying to focus on the right things. At the same time, he is very aware of what his ministers and MLAs are capable of delivering with respect to, playing with people's money. The other area, I think, what I would say, post Jayalalitha era, what we witness is the law and order problem. And EPS didn't handle this very well. And Stalin is even worse. In fact, in Stalin's governance, I would think it's mostly, what Annamale was referring to the other day was how the top police, for example, just look at the law and order position and the kind of people that they are bringing, people they are moving out of certain sensitive areas. So that didn't happen during EPS's period. So that's another big mess. And
but on that point, there'll be denial that okay, this is not happening. All right. So do we have substantial? I'm going to say, are you seeing some substantial evidence coming through of this really happening? Because I know Mr. Annamale is talking about that, but have you heard from other sources also that this is happening?
Yes, there are. So if we do an RTI, it's easy to find out at least the names of the top people. But what it signifies is there is a question of, so what if there were 80% of Hindu leaders? It doesn't matter because it was the actual representation of the demography of Tamil Nadu. But if you have a mismatch or misproportion of 80%, where it should be 80% in everything, and you see it's 30 against 70 or 40 against 70, then you know that some nepotism or some sort of a hidden conspiracy. So we talk about conspiracy when you see the norm or the accepted proportions are missing in every case. So here the proportions are missing as far as Annamalai sources are concerned. But if we did an RTI, we will be able to confirm.
Got it.
So what I was trying to say was that during EPS era, law and order was not controlled well. In fact, I would think that the very limited time that OPS had, he did a better job with law and order, which was more on the footsteps of Jayalalitha. And then EPS came over. He couldn't control law and order too much. But then again, it was I was really surprised that a lot of the terror sleeping cells were working behind the scene during EPS era, and they all knew that Stalin could come to power. And now Stalin is in power. There's some sort of immunity to these groups, and they've actively started coming out. So when you talk about the governors, why R.N. Ravi as honorable governor, and why are these people, the deep state, I call them, working against the governor? What do they have to do with the governor? Well, in terms of governor's powers, it's not a huge thing whether the neat letter was sent or not sent, what he speaks in his fora. So far, this has not been a problem. So why are they opposing the governor? Because they know something that the public doesn't know. So law and order, I think, is in capture. It's in capture by certain vested interests. So that's a big let up along with corruption. And I wouldn't say that Stalin is too much of an anti-Hindu. Instead of saying that, I should say that what he does on the ground, just like his father, is reaching out to the Hindu communities, like, the Veda institutes and Brahmins groups. And he does a lot of help for them, giving them scholarships. And, he does a lot of groundwork to reach out to Hindus. But a lot of the anti-Hindu image is in the media and in the social media. So that is going to be an interesting part to uncover.
Okay. So coming back to the schemes, you are of the opinion that some schemes are really working out good, right? So can you give some examples as to which ones do you think are really working out well for the public?
One was the COVID management and taking the tests to households and providing assistance. And the other was door-to-door education campaign, taking education to all people. So those are two things that really stand out and are very important for people.
Okay. So, but there is again, Mr. Annamalai talking about sticker government, right? Or sticker party or whichever. Okay. So some of the central schemes are just being taken over and copied here. Although as long as it's good for public, it's good. All right. So as long as the impact is on the ground, it's all good. But do you see that happening in the Stalin government? The sticker kind of a thing, and just take the same kind of scheme and just put the name there. Or do you see that?
Yeah. To some extent, it is also fair to allow the state government to do that, because not all the central schemes are funded 100% by the center. So state also has a stake in it. So it is not wrong if they portray Stalin as the giver, but what they should do is to have Modi's photo along with Stalin's, which they don't do. EPS never did that either. So I'm under no illusion that it's any different now. But EPS didn't say Dravidian model, or didn't project as he didn't own everything as his own, whereas Stalin is doing it, just like how Kejriwal is doing, how Pinarayi Vijayan is doing in Kerala. So I think Pinarayi Vijayan and Stalin are taking most credit for the central schemes, where they should be sharing the credit.
Okay. So there is a big debate about freebies versus welfare schemes. So Mr. Modi is now talking about not having this kind of a freebie culture.
Yes.
Whereas on the other side, a big voice comes from opposition saying that these are welfare schemes really and not freebies. Okay. So what is your perspective on this whole debate?
Yeah, I completely agree with Modi ji, because Modi ji's governance is an empowering model. So there's a participatory model. People can participate in the development. There's an empowering model. There is an enabling model, and there is also a disabling model. So disabling model is your typical socialist regimes where the means of production will be owned by the government, but people will be given piecemeal, ration or just enough. It's like, giving people food and also teaching them how to make food. Those are the two different sides of it. So Modi's is a very, very long-term plan. I think his vision goes from 30 years to 100 years, 150 years. So he's looking at a whole, era of reform. So what he says is whatever we do in terms of what we call welfare schemes, like having a bank account, and getting basic infrastructure like water, electricity, roads, internet. So when he's doing all that, and every household gets, people get a house, a pakka house to live in, and people get water connection, it's empowering them to do a lot of other things. So that is welfare schemes, and that is very important that we have it. So why do we have a problem between welfare and freebies in the socialist era and in the previous regimes of Indira Gandhi and the others? Welfare was sort of understood to be a socialist welfare where it's not empowering; it's just giving people what they want. As very different to Modi's investment in making sure that a village is being more self-sufficient and can, in the long term, this is why I said about 30 years to 50 years to 100-year milestones, he wants a reverse rural mass exodus. So the cities that are, overwhelming with people now, eventually people will flow back to the villages when they have more means of production in the villages. So he's thinking about all that and then creating what we think is welfare. It's actually not. It's actually welfare, but it's in a different way. Whereas freebies are things that you dangle before somebody to get a vote. So that is very wrong.
Got it. But how do you really create a clear line between these two, right? Because what's being told, say for example, in Tamil Nadu is we are giving, say, the bus pass, the free bus pass for everyone, or at least females and all that, right? Female voters and whatever you say. But the claim is that this is also in one way a good thing, a welfare kind of a scheme and helping out. Okay. How do you draw this line between these two? Because there is the opposition's allege that even in UP, for instance, a lot of freebies have been given. All right, rice and all that has been given. So how do you differentiate between a freebie and then a welfare scheme? The lines get blurred.
It gets blurred, but from my understanding, there is a line that we can draw. In a welfare scheme, it is if you're creating an asset and giving something to the population, it should not create a pull effect in some other area. So in this example of bus passes, people free ride. So if you have given free ride to people in the city, let's say, so who's going to pay that bill to the transport corporation? It should come from somewhere else. So there is a pull effect from someone else, some other scheme, some other tax. It'll have to come through. So it's not a sustainable model of welfare. So I would think anything that creates a strain in the flow of economy and the flow of revenue or expenses is not good in the long term. So it'll have to be scraped today or tomorrow. Whereas if you think about water supply, the moment you start giving water supply, there's a water tax. You give a house, there's wealth tax. You give roads, there are road taxes in different ways, like your license and other things. And so with everything comes a tax, and then that is a self-sufficient model. So this is how you should distinguish. If anything is given free, and if that is going to add pressure in the economy, in the management and the revenue model of the government in some other way, that is not going to be sustainable. So that they are willing to do that for a very short period of time, could be the 2-year, 3-year, 5-year roadmap, and then they can't go beyond that. So you will, when you are not able to pay that money from your revenue model, you end up taking more debt, and then the cost of and it goes on and on.
Right, right. Yeah, so let's see how this thing goes. So you were mentioning earlier that you don't see Mr. Stalin as an anti-Hindu, right? But he does not wish on any Hindu festivals. That's clearly seen. And some of his ministers talk ill about Brahmins. And even recently, a genocide comment was given by some minister. Right? So it keeps on coming and going, this whole narrative. So how do you see that as not an anti-Hindu kind of narrative?
I would think this is something that Stalin has learned from his father.
Hmm.
So in the public, you speak against Hindus, like how Stalin spoke in some function against our mantras and all that. That was before the election. His father used to do the exact same thing, but his father would have Hindu, Brahmins to be specific, advisors, and he'll work very closely with Hindu groups.
Mm-hmm.
So he has never cut down on any benefit that went to Hindus so far. Whereas Stalin, but in all his speeches, Karunanidhi was fiery against Hindus. Mm-hmm. So Hindus actually, people who have not tuned into this political, narratives, they don't get it at the grassroots. They are working hard for the day's money, they earn the income, and they see what is touching them, which is their usual stuff, their road, their pipe, and but their travel, all these things. So if it doesn't touch them, they don't think that the government is anti-Hindu. And I know Stalin reaches out to a whole lot of temples, associated organizations like Veda Pathshalas, and he gives from 1,500 rupees which Jayalalitha was giving, he is now raised it to 3,000 rupees. Do you think those Veda boys or their families are going to go against Stalin? They won't. So he's still doing all that. And then you can't strictly say that he has done anything anti-Hindu, except that there was a couple of temples that had an issue. But let's not forget that the deep state that I mentioned in Tamil Nadu, they consist of the evangelicals, the jihadis, the Tablighi Jamaat, which is the brain center of the whole Islamic terrorism in India. And the third is the Dravidian Karaga, the guys who were there before the political parties came.
DK, yeah.
DK, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then there is the LTTE, remnants of the LTTE. So they've got their sleeping cells as well. So you have quite a few of them united in Tamil Nadu, which is a phenomenon missing in other states. So Tamil Nadu, this explains why Modi ji is giving so much attention to Tamil Nadu, why there is R.N. Ravi sitting as the governor, and then Annamalai, an ex-IPS, as a political party leader. Annamalai could have been inserted in any other position, but why the political leader? So Tamil Nadu is a breeding ground for terror, and it has been for some time. And some of those were with or without her knowledge, Jayalalitha has also supported, the whole issue with the sand mafia in the southern Tamil Nadu. So a lot of this was bred, and for the vote bank in the late 90s, Jayalalitha started working with the Christians and Muslim parties separately. So a lot of this is politically driven and built up, but the terror is funded externally. Most of it is funded externally. So with all that, there's a very prominent power within the deep state, which is giving Stalin a lot of pressure on going anti-Hindu. So that explains why the Athinam Pallaki was banned in the beginning, and then he had to go back because Annamalai got. So that actually these forces, the church forces behind the deep state, didn't quite like it, Stalin's U-turn on that. So they are giving a lot of pressure to him. And if he's cracking down on his ministers, it's because that's the last thing he wants, because he already is in a lot of pressure.
But is he really cracking down on his ministers? Because they seem to be cropping up with all these narratives and creating a lot of headache for him on and off. They don't stop.
It's probably not. Maybe that is not the right word to say. He's probably not cracking down, but I know that he's reaching out to people and asking them to shut up. So it doesn't happen that way normally in DMK, because they are used to saying all these things, and they escaped all these while, because the best you would hear from the opposition is some some lamentation and saying, oh, the chief minister should do this, should do that. And one thing we should recognize in Tamil Nadu politics is the way the Dravidian model, whether it is DMK or ADMK, when they are in power, the first 4 years they will sleep, and both parties will join hands at the ground level, to continue with their corruption and extortion and everything else. So they are bedmates as far as their business model is concerned. So one wouldn't fight against the other. And the fourth year, the year of the election, is when they all wake up and smell, their coffee and start fighting each other. They were going to do the exact same thing now. But what has changed is Annamalai's entry into politics, and everybody is now forced to do, to come into the foray. So what they are used to do in the election year of, talking like this, aggressive speeches and, condemning or attacking, all this is now happening in the first year because of Annamalai. And it's something that they always did. So Stalin wouldn't be able to stop them.
Right. And even recently, a minister spoke really bad about some women leaders of BJP who are from the cine world and all that, right? Which was in a very bad taste. Yeah, let's see how this thing goes. Now, coming to Mr. Annamalai and the rise of BJP in Tamil Nadu, how do you see that?
It was a very premeditated entry, is what I have felt. When Annamalai joined BJP in 2020, even before that, there were talks that he would join. My very first tweet was welcoming him as the future chief minister of Tamil Nadu in 2020 August. It was very obvious that someone who has had that kind of a brilliant academic career and a brilliant career with the government of Karnataka, and has been praised by both BJP and Congress governments, Congress chief ministers. For someone like that to throw away everything and come into politics, I actually felt that there would have been quite a lot of, homework that he would have done before he decided to jump into politics. And I'm thinking it may have gone, in the mid 2010s, maybe from 2015 on, he may have been working on it. So when he came to Tamil Nadu and joined BJP, I feel that he has done the whole blueprint of how he wants to work, how he wants to bring and install a BJP government in the state and provide as many MPs to the center. And that is till 2026. And then one comes to power, blueprint phase 2 of what BJP should do in the state. So he's got a vision, and it's like Modiji's vision. It's a very long-term vision. So he's done a meticulous mapping. He's got the whole blueprint. And I believe he's got the tail of everybody, every politician. It doesn't matter, it's ADMK or DMK. He's got everybody in his little basket. So people can't really go wrong on him. He will have the ultimate say in everything. So I think it was well premeditated, very well planned, meticulously mapped. And I said during last elections, state elections, I said that if BJP will now start projecting Annamalai as the future CM of the state. Actually, BJP surprised me by making him the president. And that's even a better position.
Got it. But as of now, they are not projecting him as the CM right away. I think they are still concentrating on the 2024 elections, and then 2026 is the next step for them, right? How do you see the 2024 panning out?
2024? Yeah. So BJP wouldn't project anybody as their CM. Yogiji's was an exception. It's BJP's culture not to do that. But I'm pretty sure come 2026, it's not, well, I actually don't think Annamalai will be the chief minister. He'll create a chief minister. He may have a bigger role to play.
Why do you think so? Because everybody wants him to be the CM.
Yes, I too want him to be the CM. Yeah, but it's
But you don't think he will be?
I'm just going by what he says.
Ah.
So I think he sees his duty is to bring a BJP chief minister to the state. So we could all guess who that could be. But 2024 is going to be a very tough game. Primarily because of the ADMK factor. So last time I said 20 seats for the state elections was still okay because winnability was important. Stalin shouldn't come to power, and that would have been the basis of the seat allocation last time, which was fine. But the possibility of ADMK not coming to power wasn't probably thought through that much, and the difference wasn't huge, so we can't blame anybody. But if there was, I kept saying before last election that if DMK comes to power, it is good for BJP to grow in the state. As long as ADMK is ruling Tamil Nadu, BJP won't grow. They can focus on the grassroots level, but could never grow the way they are growing currently. So you need a strong opposition to create to develop your party in the state. So I said to people that relax. If Stalin wins, it's popcorn time for us. So, it's our time. But if it's EPS 1 we knew, Shashikala's ally. EPS 2 we knew, who was a good CM, a good governance. EPS 3 we don't know. If he had come back as chief minister, we don't know what he would have been. Yeah. So it wouldn't have been good news for BJP. So a lot depends on how we're going to look at this election. Again, this is about winnability. And I think the central BJP will have a focus on keeping the Congress seats to a minimum. So if we project ADMK, BJP, and other allies as a very strong force with, let's say 20 out of 40 seats, then if Stalin is looking at, winning 20 seats, then he wouldn't probably, maybe 3 or 4 could be won by Congress, especially in the, in the southern belt, the western belt, or closer to Kerala border. If that is going to be the strategy, which I think it will be, because we have to see the 2026 election pan-India. And the biggest theme of that, the seat allocation and allies formation, will be based on Congress. In Kerala, I wouldn't be even surprised if BJP voted for LDF to make sure that UDF, the Congress, doesn't win any seats. Right now, they have won 19 out of 20 seats. So we'll make sure that no Congress MP goes to the parliament from Kerala. And I think they'll do the same thing with Tamil Nadu. The difference here is that here, Congress is an ally of DMK. So in the seat determination, we can't really say how many seats will be even given to Congress. So it's going to be an issue. So based on that, how much of a pressure you want to give to DMK so that they reduce the number of seats they give to Congress will be the calculation. So that will go into the whole winnability question of how many ADMK centers, who came second, and which centers, and how many votes did they miss last time. And it'll be a whole lot of maths and chemistry than any rough estimate that I can make now. Because we have to go with ADMK, BJP may still have an issue with seat allocation because of this factor that I spoke about. If we think that it's possible for us to sweep, for the whole ADMK and BJP to sweep, then it's possible that BJP will ask for more seats. At this stage, I don't think that sweep is happening. DMK has got still has got a good hold because of the schemes that he has reached to people.
Got it. So 2024, BJP has to go with ADMK as an
Yes.
ally, so they can't go on their own. But I feel 2026, they should go on their own after building the groundwork. Okay, so that would be a good, I think, to watch out for. That's just my take on it.
Mm.
Because I think 2024, yeah, they have to go with ADMK. And hopefully, let's see the seats that come through. I think BJP will perform much better given the following that's coming up for BJP. Everybody is kind of looking up to Annamalai now. He is drawing a lot of crowds. People have started looking at him quite seriously, and right, and the youth is following him. That's what I'm hearing. There's a lot of youth that's following now Annamalai, what he's doing, and Annamalai is smart. He is a shrewd politician. Okay, he has done his homework and come. All right. So what he talks and what he really wants to send through as a message, he does that quite well. Okay, and he plans that, I would think. Right? It's not just off the cuff, talking something, which is what I have observed in Annamalai, right? So I think considering all that, 2024 will be a good performance from BJP. Right? That's the way I see it in 2026. If not, if not forming the government, I'm not sure. But again, at least they will play a very important role in forming the government in 2026. How do you see that?
I agree with you. 2026, BJP can go solo and they may.
Mm.
Everything depends on from 2021 when the election happened and the local body elections happened after that
Mm.
to 2024, how much of a footwork, you know, BJP can do in the state will determine how many seats we are converting, what the vote share. It's not always about the winning seats, it's about the vote share and the actual number of votes in each booth. So my rough estimate is that we need to have about 8 lakh of foot soldiers for BJP
Mm-hmm.
to be working from 2024 to 2026, reaching out to every single booth and every single family. When that happens, BJP can go solo. So it's not impossible given Annamalai's leadership. So what we see is mostly what it does in the media. But both Murugan and Annamalai are good architects of organizations. So the whole infrastructure of how the organization is built from the basic ground level up and down is quite interesting. So that we can't have too much of fanfare on that because we won't really focus on every district and every every village, every ward, every block, every booth. So ultimately, it comes to the booth. So in North India, there's a concept called Panna Pramukh for BJP. So it's like one page. Panna is a page.
Yeah.
So it's about all the voters in a booth. And when we come there, we have people who can go talk to them and convert them. That is when BJP, I think, will take a call on whether or not we're going to go solo. And for that, 2024 will tell us, how many booths we have reached and what's the vote percentage per booth. So that per booth is the magic number. So we look at per booth what the share is. If per booth we are able to get some, 12 to 15%, and 2026 is easy. Now, how to reach out to these booths? Some 97,000, I think, booths there are. To reach out to all these booths, the question is, do we do organic by just, doing pracharanam, the propaganda in the villages, and are we doing that, or are we getting the current infrastructure? We're buying it. It's either you can do it homegrown or you can purchase it. Purchase in the sense it's not against money or anything, but you get people from the other parties like DMK or ADMK.
Talent acquisition. I call that talent acquisition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these people are different. People who come and join, generally, there are people who vote for BJP, and then there are people who are members of BJP, and then there are people who are active workers of BJP. So it's the voters and the members don't count. The active workers will count. So that's the number I'm talking about 800,000. Now, recruiting people like Trichy Surya Shiva, that's a very smart thing to do because he knows the whole structure. He knows the whole operation, the whole operating model. So they can bring, the whole structure with them. So I think a lot of that will happen. I think currently a lot of DMK, especially youth, as you mentioned, are joining BJP. So it depends a lot on 2026, the booth level, how many people we have as workers and how many votes we are getting will determine. And that is that will be the foundation we will take to discuss with ADMK or other parties, for the 2026 negotiation. So let's look at 2026. Stalin is a sitting government. So he is the incumbent government. So question is going to be who's going to be the challenger. So right now in the media, it looks like Annamalai, but it's in ground reality, ADMK is a much bigger party.
Yep.
So 2024 will determine if they are on equal footing or if BJP is in a bargaining capacity. It doesn't need to be that BJP has to have the exact booth workers as ADMK has. We can say that without us, you're not forming a government. And then, there could be bargain that there could be a BJP chief minister and a deputy chief minister can be ADMK. So all those things will come into play.
Yeah.
And remember, ADMK is never used to sharing power. So this will be new to them.
Right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Let's see
this
how
is
that.
why Annamalai started talking about in last year, 2021, he started talking about 25 MPs. Why do you think he's saying that? Normally, you start talking about this closer to the election, but he's saying this because his focus is on the 2024 election, which will determine which way we go in 2026.
Yep, and that will increase the bargaining power, obviously, for BJP.
Yes.
So one final question, ma'am. You are a democracy analyst, right? So there is all the opposition leaders that we have today in other parties and all that, they keep on harping around this fact that democracy is being destroyed in India, okay, by the Modi Sarkar and all that, right? So what is your take on it? Do you really agree with that statement, or is there some truth in that?
There's no truth in that. It's a fallacy. And it's been taught to us. When our kings were, or our dharmic kings were removed, we were given something called a democracy. We were not, no explanation was given what this is about. So you and I are here, and there's a third person in the room. We both like to eat idli. You like to eat dosha, but the cook can only make one. So because we two said idli, we're all getting idli. So that is democracy. You didn't ask for it, but you get it. And in a constituency, if you get 32 to 35% votes, usually you become the winner. If there are three parties or small parties around, so you are the winner. But you've only got about 35%. The rest, 65% of people have said no, they don't want you. But you are the MLA, you are the MP. So it's a flawed system of democracy. Number one. Number two, in any other area of what should I say, the drivers of the country, whether it's judiciary or it's the business or healthcare, you take any other area of the democracy, about the country or a nation, or how we define the nationhood, starting with your security network. There's no concept of opposition everywhere. If our army, navy, and air force, they can work without an opposition, which is the most important and vulnerable part of any country. They can work without opposition. You go to a hospital for treatment, there are no two doctors telling you that one doctor says this is a course of action. There's nobody checking it by saying I'm the opposition, I have to review whatever you're saying. You just go with what the doctor is saying. In judiciary, you don't have another judging panel sitting there debating with you whether your decision is correct or not. So why should, in administration, lawmaking, there should be two different points of view? I understand that it's important to have a collaborative process, But it doesn't need to be you and me as two separate entities. And my only job, because I am an opposition leader, my only job is to throw dung at you every session. So it's a flawed concept in the beginning. A lot of these people, I'm not talking about the core opposition leaders, because they do this for the money, for the greed of power, and for so many other reasons, their vulnerabilities. But a lot of us followers, I don't belong to any particular any political party, but those party workers, they hate each other for no reason. You tell me, who can ever hate a person like Modi ji? You hate it because you're told to hate, because it is in the opposition camp. So this is another flaw of democracy. So it's not a foolproof system. It's ridden with follies. We call a lot of the Western governments as advanced democracies or more mature democracies. We can say that because the election process happens with less noise and less crime or all these poll capturing things. However, when you look through the whole system, the whole apparatus of the government, you see that they are as corrupt or more corrupt as a third world country.
Yeah.
Because it's systemic corruption, it's built into their whole system. I'll give you an example. In developed countries, when you write a policy, you incorporate your corruption into it. For example, if the road, not traffic, but let's say the Road Development Corporation, and they have a policy that they'll only use contractors to maintain their roadworks. So it's tens of thousands of kilometers maintenance work given only to contractors. It's written in the policy. So taxpayers' money goes on contractors who kind of will command their time, their price and everything. So it's 3 or 4 times the price as you would pay to a permanent employee. So it happens. And who are those contracting companies? You kind of go around the world and start seeing, and you see the tree coming. Eventually, there were 100 organizations and owned by maybe 50 organizations, and you finally come to 3, the rule of 3. You normally see about 3 players in each of these areas. But because it's built into the policy, it is not called corruption, because you do an audit, they've complied with the policy.
Yeah.
Same with, let's say, in the pharmaceutical industry. You take a government signs a contract with let's say, Eli Lilly, and they provide insulin, maybe a couple of other companies. And then the whole system, tax, credits, or people get it at subsidized costs, they get only from these companies, and where they should have an opportunity to select from, wider range. So the whole political process appears to be mature because this level of corruption is acceptable to every political party, every player in the country. So it is between them. It's, policy-wise, you would see very little change unless, your ruling administration is very pro-communist. You actually don't see much of a difference. For difference, we can say there are conservatives and Democrats, and, there's going to be some different, there will be some minor points in policy. So it's not a mature system. So if it's in a mature system, people should be given a choice to say. So if it's more around, you check with people what they want to know, what they want as policy. And if there is a mechanism to do that would be a lot better than the current political system. The money that we spend, our mind share that we spend, a lot of hatred, a lot of, what should I say, toxicity in the democracy is created by the political order. So the political order will have to change.
Yep. Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. Thank you. And thanks for all your insights. And hope to see you next time again in the show.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Namaskar.